Ooh, welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have another returning guest on the show. I have Jake C. Young, and he's going to be playing Jonah Helsing in Daylight to Dark, and he's also directing Soul's Chapel. How you doing, Jake?
Hey Scott, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited to have you back. I think we booked this last week, and I'm so excited that we can make this happen.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a while.
It has been definitely. So just for anybody that either watched your last interview with me and may have like not really remembered it or haven't watched it to give them like a refresher or just to get them a little bit of background on yourself, can you tell everybody how did you get your start into filmmaking and acting?
Yeah, so I've been involved in filmmaking and acting for a long time. Kind of started out kind of in a what I would call like a just a young fantasy. You know, you kind of start out having dreams and wanting to be involved in film. And as I got older, I started pursuing that a little bit more, a little bit more. Eventually, it took me to places like Hollywood and few other places. But ultimately, I never really found exactly what I was looking for. Got really tired of all of my stuff, you know, just
Mhm.
constantly being in a change. So I kind of found a niche in the independent film industry, and I have found a really supportive niche here in the independent suspense and horror type of
Mhm.
thriller indie film community. So that's kind of how I got my start. I've been in several different films. I've had the opportunity to work in a few different movies, not just my own, but in other people's projects. A few action films, and you know, I've got to work with some icons in the thriller industry, such as I was able to work with Diane Franklin, and we had to work with her. I recently just finished up working with Tuesday Night from Nightmare on Elm
Nice.
Street. You know, Tuesday, she was a sweetheart.
Nice.
Um, got to work with Nancy Ritter from
Nice.
Scream. And then, of course, as you know, I got to work on Reunion from Hell too with
Yeah.
Lisa Wilcox, Mark
Nice.
Patton, Danny, and all those really great people.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Nancy Ann Vitter, she's so amazing. Good friend of mine. Love her to death. We're trying to get her to do a convention here in Baltimore area, which would be nice to get her to come back. That'll be really cool. So for those that are unaware, can you tell us what both Daylight to Dark and Soul's Chapel are all about?
Yeah, so Daylight to Dark is it's currently available to watch on Amazon. You can watch it on Tubi. Um, Daylight to Dark. It's what I would call a crossover of if you're a fan of films like The Lost Boys,
Mhm.
kind of meets that High Plains Drifter kind of vibe. So it's like a modern day retelling of you know a classic vampire story. Of course, it stars Tuesday Night. It was written by Roland Jarrett, who was also the writer for the 1997 film An American Vampire Story,
Okay.
which starred Adam West and Carmen Electra. This film is a loose spin-off of that. Daylight to Dark is a loose spin-off of American Vampire, and there's several references and some reoccurring characters coming into play into this film.
Yeah.
So it's currently available. There is a director's cut of Daylight to Dark that is getting ready to drop probably towards the end of this year. It's going to be dropping, and it's a little bit more screen friendly. It's what I would call screen friendly because it's an extended version, but it's got all the fun stuff that you know as the
Mhm.
director that stuff I didn't get to put in the theatrical version
Okay.
that I'd much rather you know you guys get to see just some fun little snippets and a few extra scenes. I just began earlier this year working on a film called Soul's Chapel.
Hmm.
It is a horror suspense thriller, kind of a got a little bit of a supernatural vibe to it. I think a lot of people would be interested in this, and mostly because it's actually based on a true story.
Okay.
Um, Souls Chapel is actually it's a real place here where I live at, and it is one of in Kentucky, which is where I'm at in Lake Cumberland. It's one of the most considered um, haunted places
Ooh.
in all of the state, and in some
Nice.
cases even say the world.
Hmm.
Um, but it is based on a it's based on true events and true things that happened. Um, it's kind of a loose representation, but I think it's going to be a really great film. Brian Bremer from Pumpkinhead is in it with
Oh,
us.
nice.
Yeah, Brian's sweet guy.
Nice.
Um, and it was shot all in about 6 days. We finished wrapping it up, and you know, as a director, you know, you wear many hats in your film, whether it's
Absolutely.
yeah, whether you're doing uh, filming, acting, or directing, you know, then there's the editing and the post production. I was actually, you know, working on some of that just before I came on here with you. Um, but yeah, it'll be out projected. I think we're looking at around a possible October mid mid area release
Okay.
for that film. Of course, it'll be available for streaming and most excuse me most of the physical media as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, perfect time to release that type of movie as well.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
October. Yeah, oh my God. I love but I also hate the movies that are based on true stories because you're like, this is such a good movie, but and it's based on real life, but it's based on real life.
Yeah, yeah. So there are plenty of urban legends and stories. You know, you can get on YouTube and look up videos. There's some
Mhm.
paranormal investigations. I'm actually at the end of the month in an effort for a promo video in a collaboration with the Grim Seekers. We're going to be doing a an actual interview about the history of souls.
Mhm.
You know, next to the grounds there and talking a little bit about it. Our film it's not entirely I don't want to say it's exactly based on like true things, but you
Mhm.
know we definitely we threw in the real events and the real you know local lore about
Mhm.
the film. We threw that in there, and you can check it out in the trailer, which I can send you a link to the trailer if you want to
Yeah.
link to the video.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we I'll throw you a link to the trailer. But you know this is a film that's gotten a lot of anticipation, and
Mhm.
you know I think it's going to be a really great and really fun watch. You know, so if
Okay.
you're a fan of that sort of thing,
Mhm.
you know, supernatural horror elements, and it's kind of got like a it's almost got like a Western steampunk vibe to it as well.
Nice.
So it's kind of just got a whole lot of different things all rolled into one.
Nice.
This is one of my this is one of my first times really working in a film experimenting with a lot of special effects. So you
Okay.
know we're gonna put those to the test and see how they come out.
Yeah, special, especially when you first start dabbling in special effects, they can be tricky. We started trying to dabble a little bit into that, and it's like, ooh, this is harder than I anticipated.
Well, yeah, there's a fine line between making something look realistic and then making it look completely fake, and you're like,
Yeah,
ah, you know.
yeah.
So,
That
but you
that
know,
reminds me of the Freddy versus Jason, like the guard getting crushed by the door and all that CGI blood that's on the. You're like, wait, that's not blood.
yeah, yeah. It's like, what is that? There's a glitch in my screen, you know.
Absolutely. So can you tell us like of one possible like I guess urban legend or lore for what happened at Soul's Chapel?
Yeah. So, Souls Chapel, allegedly, the story goes that there's an old church. We're talking like Confederate times here in Kentucky. The name of the church was called Souls Chapel, which is already kind of just a chilling name in
Yeah.
itself, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, in the early Confederate days, a lot of the church was divided. So you had, you know, so much that were part of the Confederacy, so much that
Mhm.
were part of the Union, and you know, it was a hard time here, especially
Yeah.
where I'm at. You know, down in Kentucky area. Um, so there was a lot going on at that time. A legend has that there was a pastor that came into the town and there was a lot of great things happening and you know a lot of great miracles and as time went on, people started noticing missing animals and a lot of just weird stuff happening at night. And they found the Reverend. Apparently, I want to say he hung himself or something happened, but
Mhm.
there were talks of, there was a lot of like weird demonic rituals going on at the
Mhm.
time, and he was kind of like they said he was a double worshiper, like, posing as
Wow.
this pastor, but at night, like doing these really just strange rituals and stuff on the grounds. And they claim the grounds are cursed, and there are still to this day there's certain graves and stuff that like grass doesn't grow over top of. If you go out there at night, it's like just really chilling. And, growing
Wow.
up, a lot of the kids were, just really interested. Be like, hey, let's go out here and check this place out. And everybody's like, no, so early 2010, I want to say, they actually, the church was actually burned to the ground.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so it was actually burned to the ground. Um, they don't really know what happened. Some say it was arson, some say it was because the land was cursed.
Oh.
But they burned it to the ground. And some around here say it was to cleanse the land. And so, it was just a really weird type of thing. But there's still plenty of activity that goes on out there, and a lot of the paranormal investigators will continue to tell you, that it's definitely a very active place. So, yeah, it's a really cool little local legend, and it can be found in most history books, or you can look up, YouTube videos, and well, I don't know why I said history books. Nobody reads books anymore, but
Yeah.
so,
Exactly.
yeah, but if you really want to get a good chilling effort, we have a group on Facebook. We tell a little bit about the real
Mhm.
history, and we also tell a little bit about, the film and how we've incorporated some of that history into
Mhm.
that. Our film, basically, the synopsis on IMDb is that there's a drifter hiking through the backwoods of Kentucky, and goes to this abandoned town, and he comes up on a little church, seeking shelter. And while he's there, he runs into a gang of people and finds that his time spent there is anything but holy. So
Wow. Okay.
so it's definitely one of those nail biters, and I'm hoping it'll be a film that people will watch and just be like, whoa. So
Yeah, that's
I,
interesting.
yeah, so I mean, all that, we really done our best to try to roll that in there. So
Ooh, excuse me, absolutely. So going back to Daylight to Dark, your character is Jonah Helsing. For those that have yet to watch it, and they want to say see you in it and see what you do in it, what can you tell us about your character, Jonah?
so Jonah is straight up a badass. He's a really fun character. That was a
Yeah,
character I had waited for a very long time to play, and I was
nice.
very pleased by getting to play that character. Jonah is the very tough guy, very suave, kind of character.
Hmm.
In which Daylight to Dark, for a lot of people that know it, it's a horror film, but it's also a comedy. I mean, it
Okay.
plays into both of them. So it's a fun film to watch.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a fan of like just horror films. There's a lot of puns in there.
Yeah.
It's a fun film, but Jonah Helsing, he is a modern day version of literal. His name is Jonah Van Helsing. So
Okay.
he's Van Helsing. He's the modern day interpretation of a cowboy style, very Clint Eastwood, Wolverine, tough guy style cowboy that
Okay.
kills vampires.
Okay.
So, that's my character that I play. But the story mostly revolves around a brother and sister who are broke down in a small town, and they find out that like everyone there is a vampire. So it's
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of a fun little film, and it's available to watch now. You can watch it completely free on Tubi. But it's had a lot of good reception, and I'm super excited to release the director's cut for you guys to get your thoughts and comments on that.
Absolutely. I know I watch a lot of movies with my mother-in-law, so it'll be nice to watch a lot of horror movies, especially on Tubi. And I know our next one will be Daylight to Dark for
Yeah,
sure.
I appreciate that, man, for sure.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun. The current playing of Daylight to Dark, it is kind of it's kind of not all that I expected it to be. But hopefully that director's cut's going to solve a lot of that too.
Okay.
Because you kind of you got to pick and choose, especially in this industry, which
Yeah.
you kind of know how it goes. With a lengthy film,
Yeah.
you got to keep stuff that's going to keep people's main attention, and then with one that's cut way down, you
Yeah.
kind of just gotta you gotta pick and choose what to keep, what to throw away, and then pick a quality because when stuff gets edited out, your
Yeah.
quality starts to lack a little bit. So hopefully
Yeah.
this new director's cut we got
Awesome.
coming out will really kick the power in there.
Awesome. Yeah. So you did mention earlier about being a director, having obviously a lot of hats, and that is really true. I mean, if you ask any director, there's like you're being called in every direction, basically.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what do you believe is the most important, like what when you're directing, what your most important job is to make sure that the film is successfully completed?
So my most important job, and I think this is for any director, I've got friends that are directors, I've talked
Hmm.
to them. When you're making a movie, you're as a director, you are solely responsible for the outcome of that thing.
Yep.
So whether it's good or whether it is terrible, it is 100% reflection of your work. So as a
Yeah.
director, when you're on set, it's important to be very conscious of the shots that are being taken, what your
Hmm.
actors are saying and doing, and how it's coming across on screen, which can be very difficult because I've been in a lot of films that I've directed. Almost all the films I'm in, which I say that I've been in, some other productions, but I usually now only will direct films that I'm in, or that
Hmm.
if I direct a film, or I guess I would say more if I star in a film, it's 90% of one that I'm directing as well. Of
Okay.
course, I've been in other stuff, I've made appearances in like television shows and, a
Hmm.
few other indie films, but for the most part, it's because when I'm directing, I kind of know what I want to see. And
Right.
as a director, you got to have that vision of what you want to see. It's
Yeah.
your job to bring what you're reading on a script and what you're reading and what's playing out in your mind to bring that to life. I mean, and
Hmm.
that's your job as a director. And you do have to wear a lot of hats, but I've been very fortunate to surround myself with a lot of really good people,
Good.
really talented individuals. A good team of people that work with me on pretty much all my films.
Yeah.
And when I'm directing a film, and they're working with me, it's really nice because you have that idea of I'm shooting to edit, so I'm
Yeah.
making this shot because I know how I'm going to edit it and put it together and how
Yeah.
the final outcome is going to be. So I think um, your most important role as a director is to make a film as good as it can possibly be.
Yeah, I know, and I speak for you. I'm not that you ever dealt with this. I've dealt with this a bunch. But there's nothing worse than you get to set and all your cast are coming to set and everything, and they don't know their lines.
100%. And I've been very fortunate to have people that are very enthused with doing acting, so
Hmm.
they're always kind of prepped. And now
Right.
I got to say this, as when I'm doing my own films, I mean, I can't necessarily say I'm the best at what I
Hmm.
do, because there's a lot of different people, a lot of different things, but
Yeah.
and I probably shouldn't even tell this online. It's kind of one of those I'm telling on myself, but when I direct a film, most of the time I have my own script supervisors,
Hmm.
because when you're directing a film, there's so much going on, and if you're
Oh yeah.
acting in a film, there's just so much to try to cram in here to remember while you're on top of directing, getting
Yeah.
stuff ready, going through scene, marking off checklists. So
Yep.
I have been guilty in the past of having a script supervisor to feed me lines and we just cut them in between takes,
Right.
which I've done that. But yeah, whenever you've got a cast of people who aren't necessarily in that same role, it can be aggravating when they don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. But
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to work with
That's good.
people who are just so enthused with what they do that they are 100%, they are actors.
Hmm.
They are actors. There's no way around it
Right.
because a good actor will come prepared, and if something goes sideways, they're ready to intervene and improv to make the
Yeah.
scene as great as it can be.
Yeah. That's usually I'm pretty good at improv. oh, excuse me, good at improvisation as well. Like if I come to set and I have my lines pretty much memorized, but it's like, ooh, brain fart type of situation, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I know what I'm talking about. Let me just kind of roll with the punches and kind of just lead my way there, without going off track. Because if you go off track, you're taking the storyline from one direction to a whole different story.
100%. And that's one thing I do on my sets is I allow for a lot of improv
Hmm.
and a lot of ad-libbing because I feel that sometimes when you're in the moment and you are that character, you need to respond how that character would respond. So as long
Yeah.
as, I tell people if as long as you're getting the lines and getting them, what they need to be, you got to make that character you, and you got to
Hmm.
make sure that you're responding organically, because if you don't respond organically, the whole thing is going to sound rehearsed, it's going to be
Hmm.
robotic, and you're going to be like, oh, that is some really bad acting. So it's really good to be able to not only have the idea of your lines, but to be able to interject those emotions and improv when you have to, but
Right.
not too
Yeah.
much, like you said, because you can take it to a whole new level if you're not
Yep.
careful. But
Exactly. It can
just
go from one. Yep.
having that balance,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes a good actor,
I was just
is
gonna say
being
that
able
that's
to
what makes
know.
an actor a talented, great actor, and one
Yes.
that is just saying whatever they want to say, but it doesn't make sense to what should be said or to their character or the
Oh
movie's
yeah.
plot. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So, as a director, what do you believe is the hardest part?
Oh boy.
It's a tough one.
Uh yeah, what is the
There's a lot
hardest
of hard
part?
things.
So, as a director, I think the hardest part that you have is necessarily not so much, I wouldn't say it's so much making your film. The hardest part is knowing what to not throw away out of your
Yeah,
film, because
yeah,
you spend all this time and hours and days and months working on something, and then you got to decide what's good for the film and what's not. And sometimes, you could have a really great scene, but if it don't fit the film,
yeah.
you got to throw it out, and
Yes,
that hurts. That hurts a lot.
that does. Yeah,
Sometimes that's why it's good to release a director's cut of something.
yeah,
That's why you can throw that stuff in there, because then you can have something extended. But
yeah,
it also comes down to one of those type of things where the hardest part about it is honestly just not giving up, because like
yeah,
you film it, you direct it, you put it in post, and then you got to get it to where it's got to go. And each one of those are a full time job in themselves.
yeah,
So yeah, just not giving up on that final
yeah.
product and staying true to your vision. That's probably the hardest part. But
Yeah.
it's one of those. It's worth it for sure.
Yeah, so when some people ask me what do I think is the hardest part, my answer shocks them. The hardest part of directing is being a director. Because
Yeah,
sometimes you have a cast full of actors on set at one time, maybe 10, 15 people, and you're
I,
getting called here and there and everywhere, and you have to make sure all these people are, these people are in hair and makeup, these people are practicing these people know what they're doing. Oh, can I say this? Or, hey, can I do this? You're being called everywhere. And you have so many departments. You have hair and makeup, you have catering, you have drivers, making sure all of your actors are being driven to set if they're flying in.
Yeah, it can be really tough, and I've been lucky, I've got people and like family members that work with me, and they will
Mhm.
kind of assist me, like even
Yep.
being, as PAs, or
Yeah.
assisting me with whatever I need. And I had to be honest, if it wasn't for them, there's no damn way I could ever make a movie. Because
Yeah,
it's just
it's tough. You
there's just
definitely.
so much going on, like you said,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to be pulled this way or this way or this way, and keep a good steady focus on track.
Yeah.
But when you have a good crew and a good surrounding of people, I feel like that makes all the difference in the
Yeah.
world there too.
Absolutely. So obviously your Daylight to Dark is already released as you mentioned, and Soul Chapel will be released in October. I'm assuming you don't have an Indiegogo for them, but if you do, I apologize and you can plug them. But do you have any Indiegogo pages for any other projects or anything like that you want to promote where people can donate and be a part of your films?
Yeah, so Souls is actually our campaign. It is over. However, we do still have perks available on there. So if
Okay.
somebody wanted to be a part of it and snag something, or even grab like a an EP credit, because it's not one of those people are like, oh well, you just want money. It's like, no, because as an independent filmmaker, it's your job to give filmmakers what they want to see, especially in the horror community, because we've seen so many movies that are supposed to be horrors
Right.
and thrillers and like movies that you think are really good, then you watch them and they're very
Yeah.
disappointing because a lot of that is because big studios control that, and the little guys, the people who create independent films, we're solely funded on hopes and dreams and the support of our backers. And that's what I tell everybody. There's no way I can make films if it wasn't for the people that I have supporting me, um, trying to back my films and being a part of it. So my whole thing is I want to try to make people be a part of my films. So Souls
Absolutely.
Chapel does have an Indiegogo. We tried to do some really cool perks on there. So if people wanted to, grab something on there, we've got some stuff on there. Like you can get a copy of the film, a poster. We were selling little vials of dirt from the actual Souls
Oh, that's
Chapel.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, we had a few.
Next thing you know, everybody that's buying that is going to end up being having some type of curse in their house.
Oh no, no, no.
No, definitely that's actually a really really unique perk that you don't hear that much of, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah. It was very interesting. We done a few during filming. We had have your head in a jar, or
Ooh,
have your name on a tombstone,
that's
or
pretty cool.
on a headstone, because it revolves around the graveyards in the church, or on a
Yeah.
liquor bottle or things like that, with your face. And that's a really cool way for people to be
Yeah.
involved in film and say, hey, that's me and I was involved in it. And not only are they involved in a film, but they're also every time I do anything like that, I ensure that anybody who gets a perk that is, even if it's a remote thing or has their
Hmm.
face in there, we put them on IMDb, because I feel
Yeah.
that they're just as much part of the film as
Absolutely.
as any of the main cast, because we couldn't do it without them and
Yeah.
their generous contributions to us, and making sure that our dreams and the stuff that they want to see gets funded. And for anybody who's interested in that stuff, I definitely I think we got some cool perks. And of course, I mean, we've always got more coming up, so always
Right.
something new in the pipeline. I
Yeah.
don't really know what's next, because I've done like Souls Chapel and I done Daylight to Dark. So it's been one of those. It's like I'm trying to really dig deep.
Right.
So that's kind of what is current. But yeah, as far as Indiegogo goes right now, Souls is still active. You can get a jar and a little vial of the dirt from
Hmm.
Souls still, and then we've got a few other things on there that are just really unique perks and stuff. So I
Okay.
encourage you to go check that out.
Awesome. Absolutely. For anybody that wants to do that, how can they come across Souls Chapel's Indiegogo page? Where can they locate the link or find it?
Yeah, so you can find it on Facebook, or honestly, if you go to Indiegogo and just type in Souls Chapel, I think we're like the only one on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
think it's like the first one. You can see the proof of concept trailer. It's got myself on there, Brian Bremer. It's got a whole got a whole line of different things and what the film's about. um,
Nice.
you can go on. We've got an official trailer now. It's currently, on YouTube. So
Okay.
for sure, go on and check out our official trailer, and let us know what you think, and get that hype going.
Absolutely.
Get that hype up and running. I've been invited to several cons this year, and I'm hosting a film festival for independent filmmakers this
Oh,
year.
nice.
In Knoxville, Tennessee. It's the second of the. I was privileged to be a co-host last year at the CreepyCon Halloween and Horror Convention, and it's the biggest convention in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
So for a lot of independent filmmakers, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to get to see a lot of you guys, and I'm going to get to hopefully get to watch your films. There are open submissions on their website right now for anybody who has a film, and we are, we're getting ready to do that, because I love interacting with filmmakers. I love hearing about people's stuff, and I like to think, that there's no film that's too great or too small because you got to start
Hmm.
somewhere. And
Absolutely.
I love networking with people, and I love getting to meet all these different individuals who are just starting out in the film industry, or I've had people come to me ask for advice on films and things like that, and it's like, only advice I can really give you is, not don't give up. And I think it's really important that everybody kind of supports each other in this industry,
Hmm.
and everybody kind of makes an effort to kind of back each other,
Right.
because I think that's really that's important,
Hmm.
in making films, because it's not easy. Everybody knows
Yeah.
that. It's ever if
Yeah.
people have made films. If you've never made a movie, you think differently versus to when you have.
Hmm.
If you've never made a movie, you're kind of wondering, what's next. If you've made a movie, you think you'll probably never make another one. But so,
I was the
it
same
takes a
way.
lot.
I never made a movie. Oh, I want to make a horror movie. It's gonna be so easy.
Yeah,
I work so I could put in, $50 to make a movie and get, I have a phone I can record on, and then you get the scheduling and oh, but I can't do this weekend, but everybody else can. But then the weekend they're only available to do, everybody else can't do.
yeah, yeah. It's just like you're just sitting there like, oh, what have I done?
You're questioning your life choices at this
Yes,
point.
yes. And then, like, it's one of those, well, we're in too far now to quit, so we might as well just
Right.
make the most of it. But
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
it's very rewarding in the end
Yeah.
whenever you get to complete the film and see it. But,
Hmm.
for anybody who's ever done it, they know the struggle. So that's why I'm always I always attempt to be very supportive in my conversations and in whatever I can offer to other filmmakers.
Right, and you must be reading my notes here because my my next question actually was for any aspiring filmmaker or actor that is watching this interview, what advice would you give them into getting their start in the industry?
Yeah, so yeah, that's that one's kind of like just repeating myself.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, you answered that verbatim. Basically,
Honestly,
don't give up. And I asked this question earlier this week. What's today? Thursday. One on Tuesday, and then one I believe it was like this past weekend or something when I interviewed Lydia Manson, and they both said the same thing pretty much. There's film students that for their final project, they need to make a film and they need actors. So if you want to get into acting where you know a movie's going to get made or they don't pass and you need to have like some type of footage and you want to get your foot into acting, they're not getting graded on you as an actor, they're getting graded on how they make the movie. So
exactly.
that's a good way to get started is it with film students.
That's a really great way. And if people want to just break into the industry, there are always so many ways you can be
Yeah.
an extra. There are so many ways,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of independent filmmakers. And a lot of people who have like indie films and who actually have some star talent in there,
Yeah.
who need people who are willing to act and just fill roles,
Right.
and would love to have people on.
Hmm.
I do this all the time. And first, before I go any further, I gotta plug and say I love Lydia.
Yeah.
I know she done an interview with you, and
Yeah,
Lydia's just
I
the
have her
best.
coming back on with Aaron Hawkins with the cast of Hell's Gate. They're coming back on. I
Yeah.
believe it's next week.
Yeah, I
So,
talk to Lydia pretty frequently, and we both had that same discussion about not giving up. And
yeah,
she's a great filmmaker,
yeah,
really great actress, really good friend of mine. And I actually just got a postcard in the mail for Hell's Gate, with her
nice.
signature on it. So like I said, that's a really great way to support your friends,
Yeah,
support your other
absolutely.
individuals. But
Very, very great person. She actually is my inspiration. I'm seeing a dietitian starting to lose weight, and because of her, it got me on the right track. And January I was 220, my heaviest, and now I'm down to 207. So
Yeah, she's a trooper, man.
yeah,
She's had an incredible transformation,
yeah.
not only physically, but mentally with that whole process.
Yeah,
And she,
it's
yeah,
a tough process.
it is. I don't, and people don't really realize that, when you get in a certain mindset and you've been used to something for so long, you're
Hmm.
literally changing your whole life, like
And
your
your whole
whole life.
body's
Your
chemistry.
and your body's all being altered. I mean,
Yeah.
not only your body chemistry, but you got to remember what happens here affects
Yeah,
what's here,
it
and you know
does.
it can be a lot. And you know,
Yeah.
I applaud Lydia because you know she completely remolded her entire figure, and then you know still stays in the film business, and you know she's
Yeah.
just a really great person.
A very
And
good person, very good
yeah.
friend, and I will say she is an inspiration to me and I'm sure to many others. So definitely check out the interview that I did with her. We have like a 20-minute conversation on like how to healthily, if that's a word, deal with your mind and body as you're starting to go through a weight change, and how it affects your mind, how it affects your body, and how to do it in a healthy manner that can, get you on the right track. Definitely check that out because it's a really good talk conversation.
Yeah, for sure. You know, doing stuff like that, I mean, even if you're not going through something and you're making a film is stressful, man. I
Oh,
mean,
oh my
it's
God, it
hard.
is.
So you're just adding multiplications on there. So,
Yeah,
you know, I applaud people who can deal with real world problems while
yeah,
still continuing to make really great films and great art and
yeah,
create stuff that people want to see and people want to
yeah.
watch. And you know those, like you said, those people are truly inspirational.
Yep.
And
The
you know
the
I've been
hardest thing I had to, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to
no, you're
say
good.
that the hardest thing I had to deal with was my latest film. It's in post now, but it's 72, and we're in the middle of filming, and my dad dies
Oh no, I'm so
from brain
sorry.
cancer. That
Oh
is
goodness.
probably the hardest thing because now I'm literally like finding out my dad passed away. I'm here in Baltimore, like 3.5 hours away from where he was, and literally was going home that weekend, anyways. But I had to be on set, and
Yeah.
we already had a plan, schedules made, so I couldn't just like I had to go and film. So I'm like filming while I just lost my father. Like that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of conflicting emotions, especially
Yeah,
when you're trying to keep everything together. And you know, I can understand that. You know, then you've got a lot of people coming up to you wanting to
yeah,
know if you're okay. Some don't even know
yep,
what's going on, and
yep.
honestly, when you're doing that, you don't even know if you're okay. I mean, because
Right.
you've got so much going on.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you don't give up, you know, even in the
Yeah.
face of adversity, I think that's a true testament of people's
Yeah.
character. And you know, that's what I've told many people who's asked me my advice on filming is
Yeah.
don't give up. Just complete the film. Whether it's good, whether it's
Yep.
bad, complete your
Yep.
movie.
Yep.
Just complete it. Complete one film and it will forever change your
Yep.
mindset, your drive, and
Yep.
how you continue to do
And you
things.
might fail, and that's okay. You just get up and you try again. But if you don't try, then you won't fail, but you also won't succeed.
You know, that's very similar to what I've told everyone. You only
Yeah.
fail when you quit.
Yeah.
You only fail when you quit because
Yep.
even if you do something wrong, the fact that you didn't
You
quit,
learn.
you've still made a
Hmm.
step into doing something. You've not necessarily failed because you're just
Yeah.
gonna if you're like me, you try to quit, it's just gonna keep coming back and you're gonna want to do it over and over and over
Yep.
again. You know, and when
Hmm.
you enjoy doing something that's like filmmaking, you can't just stop. I mean,
Uh-huh.
even if you try, it's really hard to just stop.
Yeah.
But you only fail when you quit because at some point whether you make a film that is your best or your worst, you've never made a film before. So
Hmm.
whenever you do it, you only fail when you quit. When you quit, that is when you give up.
Yep.
You only fail if you give up or when you quit. When you complete the film, how many people in their life can say, "Hey, I made a feature movie"? Not
Right.
very many. There's a
Right.
handful of people that can say that. And
Yep.
then as you complete each one, you only fail when you quit because you can only get better.
Yep.
Because you're always testing those skills, you're always pushing your limits, pushing your boundaries. And for every film I do, my goal is to always top the last one.
Yes.
Because you have to
Absolutely.
remember, not only are you trying to make a good film, but this is your sequel to your last film. The
Right.
sequel has to be better than the first because if
Right.
you're just repeating the same thing, you know, it's going to be like watching Taken 1 and 2. You're like, this is the same movie over and over, you know.
Right.
So you have,
When I interviewed Tommy McLaughlin, the director of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, I asked him like, what advice do you have for filmmakers that make a movie but or their movie like isn't the greatest? He said I tell them to make another because I guarantee you, when I get asked what is my worst movie, I tell them the last one because the next one is always gonna be better because I always learn from the mistakes I make, and I can. There's always room for improvement for every movie I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, when you give up on that and you just quit doing your movie,
Yep.
that's when you fail.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you only fail when you quit. When you quit doing your movie, you're not going to be able to pursue and just grow your skills and move on to the next one
Right.
because you quit. And that's the
Mm.
only time you fail. By not giving up, by keep going and keep on going and just
Right.
completing one film, just one, just
Yep.
completing one will change everything. That's a game
Yep.
changer because you can stand and say, "I done that." And when you can say that you done something like that, that's an accomplishment that a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of people should be proud of. So for sure,
Yep.
I can definitely vibe with you on that.
Absolutely. So, like, go see my first movie, Samhain, Samhain. Looks like Sam Hain. It's on YouTube, free. Horrible movie. It was our first movie. It was a horrible movie. Tons of mistakes. We learned so much from it. Watch our second movie, a Friday the 13th fan film called Dead Before Dusk, made with $100, less than, it was like half the budget of the other one, and so much better. And 72 is looking even better than that. Why?
That's
Because we
awesome.
didn't we didn't we didn't quit. We didn't give up. We learned from our mistakes. We used those mistakes so we don't repeat them, and we grew and learned and just grew with the as time went on. Like, just that's the learning curve.
100%. I like you said, I've been in that same boat. I've like some of my first films, they
Hmm.
were so bad, man. I mean, the whole
Yep.
the whole movie was dubbed. So, the lips were off, and I was just like, oh no,
Yep.
what have I done? And
Yeah.
somehow I was lucky enough to really take off. Like I made a film called Night of the Undead. It was a follow up to Night of the Living Dead, made for
Nice.
$600 and some favors, and ended up, it became one of the biggest in that undead cult following,
Nice.
to kind of pick up. And it was just one of those things. You just got to keep going and learning from what you
Yeah.
do wrong,
Yes.
what you
Yes.
do wrong. And
Yeah.
it isn't even so much what you do wrong. It's just learning what the next one to do right. Like
Right.
learning from
Exactly.
what you've done. It's like that wasn't necessarily wrong. Let's just,
Yeah.
if I do it this way, I think I can improve. And you're just learning to do it. You're not necessarily learning from what's wrong. You're just learning to do it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for some reason, Sound is like the number three video on my entire YouTube channel. So go
Hey,
figure.
you got to start somewhere, and
Yeah.
that's what I tell everybody. The fact that you've done that, and the fact that you made a film and you started
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
that separates you from a whole group of people, because you got to
Exactly.
remember there's so many people in life that are just going through the motions, and it's
Yeah.
like, and those are usually 99% of the same people that
Yeah.
are gonna laugh at you, and they're gonna make fun of you and be like, "Oh, you're making a movie." It's like, "Oh, you work at a car lot or at McDonald's. Like, what have you done
Right.
with your life?" Like, and I'm not
Right.
knocking what anybody's
Right.
profession, but it's like, do something with your life, because
Yeah.
those will always be the same people that are knocking you, or they're jealous of what you've
Yeah.
done, because they can't do that. And the people, same with the people that are in the same industry,
Yep.
the ones that will knock you and talk about how bad you are to other people and try to put your character down, those are the same people who know that they cannot live up
Yep.
to
And
your
those are
same
and those are the
reputation.
same people that are creating Indiegogos to make these movies and then never make the movies but get the money.
Yeah, and because like I said, they not only have they given up, because a lot of times that's what happens. They give up,
Yeah.
then they quit making a film, and then your guys and your crowdfunders are left empty-handed. And
Yeah.
to me, that's kind of that's the same idea as stealing. I mean, it's the same
Yeah.
as stealing your money. And I can pride myself in saying that almost every film I've ever had control over on an Indiegogo, I've made sure to try to deliver on my perks. And
Hmm.
it's that makes a big difference, because like you said, you got to take care of those people, because that's
Yeah.
who's supporting you. And, those are the people
Absolutely.
funding your dreams, baby. So you got to make sure that those are the ones that are taken care of.
Absolutely. So if you are watching this, if you want to donate to Souls Chapel, please do so. Jake's a good guy. I know him, so I'm telling you he's a good guy. So definitely donate to him. Before I let you go, Anything else that you want to promote? Social media accounts, websites, any other
Man,
projects?
I've got MTS Pictures. That's the name of our production company.
Okay.
We've got Facebook. I've got a Souls Chapel group. Of course, go watch Daylight to Dark if you get the chance. It's
Mhm.
completely free on Tubi if you get the chance.
Yep.
But I definitely love connecting with people. So if you guys want, I think I'm tapped out on Facebook right now. I've hit my 5,000 friends limit. I'm like,
I never
no.
understood that 5,000 mark.
Yeah.
Like, why are you telling me how many friends I can have?
And I'm verified, and I had to do the verification before it was like pay for verification.
Oh,
And so
wow.
like now
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, how do I get around this? So
I
it's like,
was the same way. I'm on Twitter before they started the pay thing. They verified me. I don't gotta pay, but it's like thank God I don't gotta pay to have my verification. But it's like oh
yeah, it's still it's kind of rough,
yeah,
and that verification, it definitely sets you apart. So
yeah, it definitely
um
does.
and that's kind of the what I've ran into too. But yeah, follow me on socials, Facebook,
Mhm.
Instagram. I'm at Jake C Young _official. You can type that in, or you can type in Jake Eastwood, either or, it'll pull me
Mhm.
up. There's YouTube, there's mtspicturesnews.com. Most of that you can find all on my social medias, and just
Awesome.
look it up. But as far as that, I'm looking forward to everyone's getting to see Souls Chapel, and this is
Yeah.
one I'm really excited for. And of course, I got to brag on my man Scotty here, for having me back on the show.
Of course.
Thank you so much for having me on. And
Of
every
course.
time we get together, we always have a blast and have some really good
Absolutely.
talks. And it's been way too long.
It
Last
really
one,
has.
the
Don't make
last
it.
one.
We can't make it this long again.
No, no, it was
But
like,
yeah.
it's been like what, 2 years it
At
seems
least two
like.
years,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Next movie you got coming out, hit me up. We'll set it up. If I see you posting it or anything, we'll set something up for promote that as well.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that'll be
And for
great.
and for everyone watching, make sure you go check out some of the other Slasher Scotty interviews, because he's got some really cool guests on here, and I'm very privileged to be a part on here. So
Yeah,
thank you so much, Scotty.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Jake. It's been a pleasure having you again. It was so much fun. Usually my interviews aren't that long, but this one's a long one. And I love it. Like
It's
time flew
probably just
by.
because I talk too much. I talk too
No,
much.
I love it. I don't mind shorter interviews, but I like long interviews too. Like when they're longer, it shows that there's more to talk about, and it shows that there's just so much more to go over, and you're having so much fun. And I hope
Absolutely.
everybody else enjoyed the fun that we had and learned a lot about the movies, learned about a lot about you. And we'll definitely do this again. But I do thank you
Absolutely.
for coming back. It's
Yeah,
been
for
so much
sure,
fun.
man. Anytime, anytime.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great rest of your night. Like I said, I'll try to get this uploaded tonight. If not, definitely tomorrow. I'll probably be heading to bed in about 30 minutes. But
I feel that. I feel that. Yeah,
5
no
a.m.
worries.
comes way too quick.
It's awful, man. I get up early just to get up early, and like sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, why? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I feel you, man. But
Yeah.
for sure, I'm super excited to see it. And of course, we'll share it
Yeah.
everywhere.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of your day, Jake. Or
Hey,
night, I
see you,
should say.
Scotty.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bye.
see you, man.
Bye.